ran for our lives, and with nothing but just white, thick cloud of dust, and it was brutal. It just felt like an earthquake.
In the quiet hours of the night, the unthinkable happened. This 136-unit building near Miami Beach came crashing down. Security video from a nearby condo capturing it all.
This whole building right here is gone, the whole back side of it, everything to the beach, it collapsed.
This is going to be an entire building, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to 13 stories.
Many inside running down to the street.
You okay, man?
Gabe Neer feels lucky to be alive. He just moved into one of the condos at the oceanfront Champlain Towers South 11 months ago.
I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a dream. There was a lot of loud, rumbling noises going on in the first collapse, and the second collapse was even more intense. I prayed that everybody would make it out safe if there are.
First responders rushed to the scene, searching through the rubble for any signs of life. Hearing a voice cry, "Don't leave me." Discovering this young boy, one of at least 2 people pulled from the rubble.
A massive search and rescue is underway, and we know that we're going to do everything we can possibly do.
It was a remarkable transformation. Here is the building before the collapse, and then after. A scene more reminiscent of Syria than South Florida. The scope of devastation fully revealed once the sun came up.
This just doesn't happen. You don't see buildings falling down in America. Here we had a building literally fall down.
The desperate search continues for those who did not make it out. This video shows the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue searching in the parking garage under the pancaked building. Another body was recovered from the wreckage tonight. First responders also driving in large equipment to remove debris and help in the search. So far, 3 people dead, and with at least 99 still missing, families and friends are frantically looking for loved ones.
They haven't been answering their phone, and they don't answer anything.
My colleague, Victor Condo, spoke with Soraya Cohen, who believes her husband Brad and brother-in-law Gary were in the complex when it collapsed. The family had been in the process of moving.
He always wanted to live such a long life. And then, like, you would ever think anything like this could happen, and you saw that rubble. How will they even find him? And that there's no way he'll be alive in that.
Nicholas Fernandez is searching for close friends who were staying in his family's condo, making frequent calls to them.
You've tried calling them, you're trying everything, you can't get a hold of them.
Non-stop with my family, just with the, like, you know, having like at least a hope of like maybe the rescue team will hear the cell phone and they will have a clue.
Also among the missing, dozens from South American countries, including Paraguay, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, and Uruguay. So far, 102 people have been accounted for. Families and friends have flocked to a reunification center just blocks from the collapse.
What is that process like to try and reunite those folks?
We have chaplains, we have different religious groups, we have different types of people, we have the Red Cross, everybody that could help these individuals. They're desperate to know about their family members if they survive this collapse. So we have every asset that we've learned through the years to be able to employ to help these individuals in their worst moment.
The sheer scale of the damage pushing the president to make a vow.
I made it clear, I say to the people of Florida, whatever help you want, the federal government can provide, we're waiting. Just ask us, we'll be there. We'll be there.
The Champlain Towers South were built in 1981 in Surfside, just 6 miles north of Miami. 12 stories with 136 units. It housed a mix of year-round residents, snowbirds, and part-time renters. For decades, it stood against hurricane-force winds. The catastrophe happening shortly after 1 a.m. The postcard seaside town becoming choked in dust and smoke.
Attention, lower hazard building collapsing.
The residential tower suffered a partial pancake collapse, while many of the residents inside were sleeping. In mere seconds, 55 units reduced to rubble. Survivors saying it sounded like thunder. First responders started arriving on the scene shortly after receiving the call at 1:38 a.m. More than 80 fire trucks dispatched, making their way into the chaos.
I have never seen so many ambulances and police in my life all at once.
Residents seeking refuge on balconies, waving down those rescue teams.
We still have people standing upstairs that don't need to be evacuated.
At least 35 survivors were pulled from the building. Then the urgent but delicate search inside began, compounding the difficulty, not knowing how many were actually in the building at the time.
This is obviously a seasonal community. That building has a lot of snowbirds, so we're not sure who's there and who's not there.
Walls ripped away, images frozen in time, bunk beds, where moments before, residents were sleeping. The parts of the complex still standing, with precarious concrete chunks, dangling wires and fires, further complicating rescue efforts. Search dogs being brought in to go where rescuers couldn't.
And the real heartbreak for me is that, we had the dogs out there this morning looking for people, trying to find people in the rubble.
A trauma center nearby also jumping in to help, assembling a staff and supplies to send on site. Part of the rescue team included trauma surgeons like Howard Lieberman. He and a team of doctors packing up gear to take onto the scene, ready for any type of emergency.
Very often they need to do a field amputation to expedite or to be able to get someone out of a building, a car, whenever they're trapped. It's typical that initially you probably don't have any patients and they slowly trickle in over time.
Even though it's very rare, this is not the first time that buildings have collapsed in the nation. In 2015, an apartment building in New York City toppled due to a gas explosion, leaving 2 dead and 19 injured. The most fatal building collapse occurred in Missouri in 1981, when a Hyatt Regency collapsed due to a structural failure, leaving 114 dead and more than 200 injured. But the big question remains, what caused this residential tower to fall? No signs of a sinkhole, no signs yet of a gas explosion. It's going to be a long and exhaustive search for the cause of the catastrophe.
The enormity of it was really quite shocking. They'll be looking in the field at the orientation of the debris, the way that it's broken, the way that the parts are stacked up against each other. You can use a lot of that material to really try to recreate how the initiation of the collapse occurred and then how it progressed. So it's a bit like taking a jigsaw puzzle that's in a pile and trying to put it back together again.
One of Surfside's commissioners saying the towers had been scrutinized in recent years. It was up for its 40-year recertification, and that construction of a nearby building had led to some issues with the Champlain Towers' garage.
To my understanding, there were some cracks from that project, minor cracks, but they were just patched up. Nothing, based on my understanding, to the magnitude that would indicate that there's a structural problem that could result in something so catastrophic.
According to the AP tonight, an inspector had been on scene as recently as yesterday for that recertification process. Investigators will likely look at other clues. A 2020 study out of Florida International University, which found that land in the Champlain Towers area had been sinking at an alarming rate during the 1990s.
I was shocked because we saw that the building moved 20, 30 years ago, which means that whatever caused the collapse didn't start this year. It started many years ago.
Meanwhile, the search for the missing continues. First responders pivoting from inside the building to underneath the rubble.
Rescue teams are hoping for pockets inside all of that rubble where they might find some survivors. They have been working in teams of 10 to 12, working until exhaustion.
Every time we start breaching parts of the structure, we do get debris that falls on us.
Their moves precise and methodical to prevent further tragedy.
They assess the structure every hour. They conduct the assessments every time there's a weather shift. We place seismic devices on the building.
While first responders have heard sounds of banging, so far they haven't heard any more voices. But no one is giving up hope yet. Currently, right now, at this hour, that team is in there trying to find survivors.
We hope, with God's help, and we're praying that those sounds that we hear through sonar and the equipment that we have, that those are survivors that are in there in some pocket under all that rubble that is there. And that's what we could hope for.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
This stunning look from above, revealing a condo complex with an entire section gone. The portion of this map in red is what used to be standing at the Champlain Towers South just over 24 hours ago, and is now a pile of debris. Greg Schlesinger, a contractor who's built a number of complexes in the area similar to the structure that collapsed, has some ideas about what happened.
There are two items here, concrete and steel. If the steel is exposed and loses its structural integrity, the concrete fails instantaneously. And that's how it fails.
And you think that's likely here?
I would surmise more likely than not. That's the way it went.
Civil engineers say any investigation will examine factors like maintenance and erosion. The building actually began sinking years ago, according to a recent report from Florida International University.
That particular building, identified as a building that moved in the 1990s.
Shimon Vidavinsky says the building was sinking 2 millimeters a year, though it's unclear if that continued or contributed to Thursday's collapse. The attorney for the Condo Association says any rush to judgment on what might have caused the collapse is unfair and premature.
There was no warning that the building was it's subject to a threat to collapse. There has to be an engineering explanation that goes beyond what we ordinarily see in terms of wear and tear on a building. And we need those answers.
Here's what we know about this 12-story high-rise. It was built in 1981 and contained more than 130 residences. According to the building's property record, it has no unsafe structures, no work without permits, or expired permits. The attorney for the Condo Association says Champlain Towers had just finished a 40-year certification inspection and was making fixes on the roof and also about to perform steel and concrete repairs. The catastrophic collapse surprising even seasoned engineers.
A complete pancaking type failure like this is extremely rare. There have been a few in the decades that, I have been in practice.
Glenn Bell says engineers will try to deduce a cause.
The way it's piled up, the way that the pieces are broken can tell you a lot to the trained eye about how the failure initiated, where it might have initiated, and how it progressed.
And we also found out that an owner at this building filed a lawsuit back in 2015 claiming that management failed to properly maintain an outside wall. But an attorney for the Condo Association tells us all buildings have leaks. That is not necessarily indicative of a structural issue. Savannah, back to you.
Well, that work continues, Sam. Thank you. We're going to bring you the latest on the search efforts and hear more from witnesses and survivors in our next half hour.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.